From the Channel Seed Studios, welcome to The Hook. A look behind the lines with Mike Palm and Ken Miller. Powered by Circa Sports Iowa. Sports betting the way it should be. This is Iowa Everywhere.
Channel Seed. Seedsmanship at work.
And hello again, everyone, and welcome back. Another episode of The Hook after taking last week off. We are back this week. It's sponsored by Circa Sports here in Iowa. My name's Ken Miller. You can perhaps, if you're so inclined, we'd love to have you listen to Trent Condon and myself on Des Moines Sports Station 106.3 KXNO Monday through Friday from 11 until 1. My partner is the Vice President of Operations at Circa, an Iowa native who was back in his home state last week. We'll get to that. We'll talk about the All-Star Game. We'll talk about what must be a very slow week in Las Vegas when it comes to betting on sports. You had the Homerun Derby, the All-Star Game, Summer League NBA, Scottish Open, but not a whole lot more. Mike Palm, how are you, Mike? Come back from vacation. You got back to your home state. I'm guessing it was just how you remembered it. How are you?
Well, I'm going from 88 with 95% humidity to 108 with 10% humidity. So, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Although you don't, being out here so long, I'm not used to the humidity. It took a couple days. The trip, we landed on Monday and went home on Friday. The Thursday and Friday were really nice, but it was hot, hot and humid and stormy in Chicago when we went over on Wednesday.
What did you do in Chicago? Touristy stuff? Is that what you just bounced around? Did you get to, what do they call it? What's the name of it?
We made a day trip. So we left Dubuque at 4 a.m. and drove over, and we went up the Sears Tower. My wife's obsessed with all the. I mean, we went to every skyscraper in New York, but she says, Willett, we're going to Willett. What? I said, what Willett? I know, so I know it as the Sears Tower, but we went up the Sears Tower. We went and had breakfast. We took a 2-hour boat cruise down the Chicago River to look at all the architecture.
Okay.
Then we went to Millennium Park and Grant Park, and then eventually Navy Pier. But
that's what I was thinking of.
We got shut out because before we could, we had dinner there, and then before we could get on the rides, I mean, the weather turned. It rained hard from like 2:30 to 3, and then it got sunny again. But then come 6:45, I mean, the birds were going nuts. You knew something was coming, and the lightning came, and then I'm on Lower Wacker Drive underneath water. I mean, my wife says, slow down. I said, I won't get through the intersection if I slow down. We got to get up to, up above the lake level here, or we're going to get washed out. But it was a fun day trip, and the kids slept on the way back. So it was good. My wife had never been to Chicago, so it was a nice little trip. And then we did a lot of things with my mother. We saw the fireworks on actually Monday night, July 3rd. We were right on the river there in Dubuque and watched, which was like a 90-minute fireworks show between several different ones doing it, and did a bunch of stuff there. My son hadn't been back since he was 2, now he's 7. So, and then my mother got to see the baby and meet my second wife. So it was a nice trip. It was a nice little 4 or 5 day trip. It almost started out disastrous. We got to the Eastern Iowa Airport in Cedar Rapids, and we go to the luggage carousel, and our bag isn't there.
Oh boy!
We've got all the clothes. We only did one checked bag, and we took 3 backpacks as carry-ons for the kids' stuff. But all the clothes for all 5 of us and shoes and everything, my wife's purses were all in this bag, 49.5 pounds. And we're waiting. We get right to the 50. We're waiting and waiting and waiting. So finally I go up to the Allegiant counter, and she says, well, not much what we can do. If we find it, we'll send it to you. I said, well, that doesn't work. We might as well go home. We might as well try to find another flight home somewhere, drive to Des Moines and fly home. I mean, so there was one bag left on the carousel. So I said, this person had to have taken it, because they said the bag was scanned in off the plane.
Wow.
So, but the bag was 9 pounds, Kenny. I mean, come on.
Oh, geez.
So I said to my wife, let's eat lunch. Let's stall around here as long as we can. They said they're calling this person. They're calling the son. They're calling this and that. Finally, like an hour and a half later, we headed to Dubuque, rented a car, and we were just getting through Anamosa, and Allegiant called and said they brought your bag back. So my wife said, "You want him to ship it?" I said, "No, I'm driving back and getting our bag now. I don't, what ship it? We get it tomorrow night.
Right.
It's 90 degrees. I mean, I can't. We need clothes."
Yeah.
So we went back and got it. So we wasted about 3.5 hours, but it would have been really bad if we didn't get our bag.
Well, and how about the person that picked up the 49-pound bag and didn't realize that they packed a 9-pound
He
bag?
said his grandson picked it up and didn't
Ah,
know. And then they texted him like 8 times, called him before he finally answered, and then brought the bag back. But in this day of high technology of everything, there's so little security to luggage. I mean, it's incredible.
Yep, good point. Excellent point. Well, glad it worked out. Glad you got the bag. Glad you got home, saw your mom, and back and recharged the battery. So, what's this week like in Las Vegas, Mike? I mean, home run derby. First of all, I guess let's start there. What kind of right do you do on the home run derby?
More than the All-Star game, I'll
Is
tell you
that a
that.
fact?
Oh yes, we did more right on the home run derby than we did on the All-Star game, and very little end game. So I mean, people just weren't compelled to it or weren't drawn to it, or there was a little bit of action on the National League. They went to be small favorites,
Yeah.
even though they hadn't won in so long and have been dominated. But I mean, you look at the two lineups; they had the superior lineup, but they almost blow it again. They had to come back.
Yep, Kimbrel.
But it was just really anticlimactic. It meant more people much more interested in the home run derby, and of course you bet the future and the matchups each round, and it was just a good. It was about, I think it's just a little over 50% more right on Monday than on Tuesday.
So over 6 figures on the home run derby?
Oh yes,
Wow,
absolutely, yeah.
How about here in the state of Iowa? Do you have those numbers?
It was pretty similar. It was it wasn't a lot, and it was about even Monday and Tuesday.
Gotcha. It used to mean so much, right? I mean, I know what it was like for little Ken Miller in the 60s. This was appointment TV because we didn't have interleague play. You would only see a couple of teams a year, seemingly. This was you can't miss as a kid, as a baseball fan growing up as a junkie. It's changed. Why?
And of course, if you were a Cubs fan, like most of us in Eastern Iowa are, you pulled for the National League, and the National League dominated there. I'll never forget when Atlee Hammaker gave up the grand slam to Fred Lynn. I was so angry because they finally lost. They had a big, long string of winning. But yeah, it was absolutely a point, and it's still the best of the All-Star games.
Without a doubt.
It's the only real game where they really play a game.
Right.
I hate the uniforms. I mean, the uniforms.
Terrible.
Just let them wear their own uniforms. Like
preaching to the choir. Yeah,
let them all wear throwbacks. Do something to marketing. But I mean, 3 shades of navy. What the heck was that? I mean, it's just awful.
No, it was a bad look. The National League looked ridiculous. That's what you want to see, right? You wanted to see your team's hat on your guy as the introductions, whether we're starting or not. You wanted to see your guy for the team you root for. God, I loved the All-Star game when I was a little kid. Well, we'll see. And you're right. It's by far. Is it action-wise when it comes to the NBA All-Star game?
No, the NBA All-Star game gets more right. Nobody does this, whatever they do with football now. I mean, they've just killed that. So there's nothing there. But the NBA All-Star game gets more. And then, of course, the build up too with the 3-point and the slam and all that stuff, that the rookies game and all that. People bet into that the whole weekend.
Is the NBA Summer League, I've seen it build over the years. A lot of people, I mean, I know people that actually went out there to watch this event because it's reasonable. You can get in. I didn't check with them this year, but in the past, you buy a session ticket. You can see a couple of games for the price of your ticket. All of it at Thomas and Mack. Is it still continuing to build momentum, and how busy are you guys as far as taking action on the Summer League?
We're writing a little bit. I mean, most people go out and at least take one session, and they kind of run concurrently at Thomas and Mack and Cox, which are right there on the UNLV campus. I think Wimbayama getting pulled out right away kind of took a little bit of the luster off of it, but it's pretty good. I mean, take your kids out there and watch. A lot of guys that are going to play in the NBA, and they're competitive. Right. They're competing for a spot, and it's not bad, and it's obviously economical.
What did you bet on this week?
I bet a parlay in the first round of the Home Run Derby, and that's it. And then I bet some in-game Wimbledon this week. But that's it. Yeah. I almost bet the USA last night over Panama because everybody bet Panama, and the price got down to like you could have got 115. I'm glad I didn't. Not only didn't they win in regulation, they didn't even advance.
Yeesh.
I mean, you could have got Panama about plus 240 to advance. So I laid off of that. But there's really nothing right now. I haven't made a bet today. I watch a little bit of Summer League.
Yeah.
You can kind of, it's a little bit like the NBA. Wait for one team to get ahead 15 and just bet the other team because
Yeah.
they come back, right?
Right. Right. Of the tennis majors, is this the most popular as far as betting,
It's
or
close.
U.S.?
No, it's close with U.S. Open
Yeah.
because obviously people get very involved in that's
Hmm.
here and more Americans play here and more
Yep.
storylines. So it's not like the Masters towers over golf with the majors. This doesn't. Wimbledon and U.S. Open are kind of 1A and 1B there.
I've been meaning to ask you this. We know how much what Vegas fans, when it comes to the Golden Knight, that they like to bet on their team. You guys are in Colorado. Do you notice a disproportionate amount of wagers on the Broncos or the Avalanche or the? I can't think they're betting the Rockies, but the Nuggets perhaps.
We lost to the Nuggets futures there, and I told you got hit with the Lakers, yes, to make the playoffs. But
Yep.
there's less as a percentage of recreational play because we don't have a brick and mortar book
Mm,
in Colorado, so it's not as much homerism there as there is in Las Vegas, where
gotcha.
we have so many local customers that come here and watch the games here. You don't have a
Yeah.
book there for them to go and watch, and so that makes a big difference.
Florida getting close. What does that mean, if anything, to you? Is it going to be a crazy tax rate? Um, the Indian gaming is going to be
Yeah,
involved in it. What does Florida do?
the natives very powerful there, so
Yeah,
I'm not optimistic that it's something that's probably going to fit into our business model.
yeah. It'll be pretty popular, don't you think? I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Big state.
Absolutely. The big states don't know. New York has it with the ridiculous tax rate, and
Hmm.
Texas hasn't gotten it together. California. So this is like, the next big state to go.
Yeah. Let me save baseball in the second half for just a second. We're getting closer every day to the NFL. So let's start with the contest, Survivor and Circa Millions. I'm guessing it's starting to pick up steam as we get closer to August. There's obviously a huge overlay still, but what's the uptick been like since we last spoke 2 weeks ago?
Yeah. I'm just going to pull up the numbers here. And we had some down days because people weren't in the book
Right.
because of All-Star Week, where we only did like 50 or 60 entries. But we're getting there. Obviously, we passed the 1 million mark threshold, over 1,000 entries, and Survivor is continuing to pace pretty clear of Circa Millions. That's going to be interesting because Derek and I had a conversation about as we get to August, there's a possibility that, you switch the advertising push heavily to millions
To
because you're
millions,
going to
right.
be okay and survive. I mean, I can see that happening.
Yep.
As I said to you before, there's mostly at this time, if there's a difference, it's 5 or 10% above. But almost double. I mean, we're at 1736, 1123 in the Survivor, 600 in the millions right now.
Jesus. While you were gone, I believe it was while you were gone. I mean, I know you're aware of it. You're probably in a lot of these negotiations. Circa and the Power Slap. I don't know if it's a league. The Power Slap people formed a relationship. How big is that going to be? Honestly, I think it's ridiculous.
Well, Derek
This
went
is
and
even a sport.
they attended the one at the
I
Apex
saw it.
here while I was gone. Derek, and he brought a bunch of people, sat with Dana White. The relationship for us is important because the deal we made with Power Slap, we're now able to broadcast these UFC pay-per-views at Stadium Swim. That was
Oh,
part of the deal with the sponsorship,
oh,
which at this point is much more important, right? Because
yeah.
we did this UFC Saturday night at Stadium
I
Swim, and
saw
we
it. It
got
was packed.
2,000 people. Yeah. So the deal encompasses, I think, the next 14 fights with UFC to be broadcast at Stadium Swim. So it's
That
pretty.
had to be a kicker to the deal, right? I mean, you guys had to
Oh
have
yeah.
that to do it. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw some of the pictures from Stadium Swim. I thought, my gosh, I haven't seen it this crowded in a long time. Didn't realize that's what. So you don't have to charge, other than the normal get-in rate. You don't have to upcharge to get to Stadium Swim to watch the fights.
Yeah,
Right?
that's correct.
Interesting.
Correct.
Interesting. NFL overall. Did you watch Quarterbacks last night, by the way, on Netflix? I don't know if you're a
I
Netflix
did
guy.
not.
I watched the first episode. And Mahomes and Kirk Cousins were really good in it. But just NFL overall, starting to see writing more futures. Is it still tourists, or are some of the the sharps starting to take a look at all the different offerings that you guys have. And I love the Super Bowl exacta, by the way. I can't talk Condit into it. He's completely wrong. I absolutely love it. How much business you see in NFL wise?
Not a lot. You know what? We'll kick it off for us when we put the alternate win totals up.
Yeah.
That's what we do a great deal of business on. And I know there's a couple other books that offer them now. We were the first in Nevada to do that. So I think people are waiting on that, which should be out here in the next week or so.
The alternate, the Super Bowl exacta. So, for instance, if I'm going to bet the Chiefs, I'm going to get what, 6-1, 8-1, something like that. How many teams realistically can represent the NFC, Mike, in your mind? 2 or 3?
Well, I start with Philadelphia and San Francisco, and then
Yep.
I'm not sure who's third.
Cowboys, maybe.
That's another one I say I'll believe it when I see it.
Lions, believe when you see it.
Believe it when I see it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody in the South.
Nope.
That's
Trent
better
like
than
Seattle in the West.
I know a lot of people are on Seattle right now. A lot of guys at VSiN are betting Seattle over wins, Seattle playoff, all that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they did lead San Francisco at halftime in that game in the playoffs.
True.
So maybe they're the third choice. But, God, boy, I narrow it down to the other two. I think it's pretty clear. The AFC is a different story.
Right, and that's why I took the Chargers and I took the Bengals.
Did you take a 2-team NFC with a bunch of different AFC teams for the exacta?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did. I funded my Circa account because I hadn't been betting with you guys just because of our relationship. I don't want to take your money. I'm that confident. But knowing how my betting's gone over the last few years, it's you guys are going to just be fine. But when you see the prices, I mean, you're getting 100-1, 150-1. Chargers over Niners is a huge price. Huge price.
Yeah, that's it's interesting. And then you're invested. So if you don't want to bet on a certain week or whatever,
yes,
you already got action on all those games.
I do. I think I got 8 different combinations that I bet. Yeah, my money's tied up until the end, but the carrot at the end, the pot of gold rather at the end of it, when you're seeing triple digits, there's one I got 200-1. I think it's Chargers over, maybe it's the Cowboys. Chargers over Cowboys, like 200-1. That's a crazy price.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's do baseball. Second half of the baseball season. You guys put something out very interesting today. Yes, no to make to make the playoffs. Not enough to win the World Series. Just have to make the playoffs. There's one team that to me kind of stands out above all the others, and that's the Tampa Bay Rays. So yeah, I get it that they've got a phenomenal record and everything, but as of late. And maybe they were just, staggering to the All-Star break. Maybe they just needed the All-Star break. But a 26-1 no to make the playoffs. Baltimore's good. The Yankees, they might be in the Ohtani sweepstakes. The Blue Jays are going to hang around. If the Rays don't make the playoffs, that's 26-1. Is there another team that you kind of fancy? That's a big price, 26-1.
Interesting. I'm just looking here. I think the Mariners are a little bit interesting.
To not make the playoffs?
Yes, at plus 270.
Yeah.
They're a little bit interesting because I don't think it's beyond the realm of possibility that they could pass the Astros and the Rangers.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I want a little bit higher price. I'm just looking through to see if there's anything that seems to be ridiculous to me.
Just to get in. Twins plus 120 to not make the playoffs? I mean, they're not you have to win that division.
I think Cleveland wins the division, but you bet that to get a better price. Take Cleveland at 65-1 to win the World Series or wherever you can find it. It's 55-1. Because that the 3 seed still gets to host all 3 wild card games. I know they have to play in the wild card round, but you get 3 home games.
Right, but if you're in the Central Division, there's only one team coming out of the Central, and plus money on the Twins not to make it.
National League, you could get 2 in the Central. The American League, you're not. Derek's all high on the Tigers now. You see, they're hanging around. Yeah. I don't know. They pitched too much hurt pitching, though. To me, they had too many guys Too many guys hurt.
Although that Manning kid was really good last weekend against the Blue Jays through 6 innings of that
Yeah, the
combined
no-hitter. I
no-hitter.
watched that combined no-hitter Saturday
Yeah, I
morning.
watched the whole thing. It was unbelievable, start to finish on that one. So let's go. Let's find a second half team that we can maybe make some money on. Who's the team that you've got your eye on for the second half of the baseball season? Everybody says Padres. Some people say Mets.
Well,
Musgrove's been better.
Mets played better down the stretch. They got a
Mhm.
long way to go is the problem, and you got to overcome a lot of teams in that National League wild card hunt.
Right,
Remember,
including the Phillies in their own division.
including the Phillies in their own division, and you got to, the Braves are obviously the best team in baseball right now.
By a mile.
I think Houston is a team to watch. I liked Mitch Moss's pick of Houston at second at 11-1 in the draft yesterday. Framber's now the favorite to win the AL Cy Young. I was grousing about him for much of the year, but my 25-1 ticket is now plus 195.
Is it?
Maybe it's the time to get off it and find a no price at two, at 3-1 or something. I know, they have ridiculous splits on the no at this point, but I don't know. I still see 7 and 6. That worries me. But I think the Astros are interesting. I don't think Texas wins the division because I'm not sure John Gray can pitch as well as he did in the first half, and will Dane Dunning keep pitching as well?
Right.
And obviously the injuries. So I like Bochy, and I have him over the 80.5. I'm pretty sure that's going to be good, but I'd make the Astros the favorite, and I think the Astros might even go out and get another starting pitcher at this point. So I think you keep your eye on the Astros. I'm not enthusiastic about the Padres. I just think their lineup is so top heavy once you get beyond 4.
Yeah.
There's too many dead innings for him, and Snell's been the only reliable starter in the last 2 months. Right? He's
Musgrove's, I think his arrow's pointing up.
Could be.
Yeah.
Could be. I'm not. I'm off a die. I don't like Darvish at all. He's a fake ace.
Yeah.
So and their bullpen has not been great either. So I just don't see it for the Padres. I know. I think the Giants are an interesting team, although I think their defense is poor. Cobb has thrown very well. I like Logan Webb. Desclafani's been. So it's interesting in the West. And will Arizona hang on? They kind of stumbled a little bit into the break, but the Dodgers, who's the Dodgers going to pitch for the Dodgers? I don't know. Now Kershaw's on the DL.
Yeah. This
and that. So it's interesting. And the National League wild card race will be wildly interesting, I think.
It really will. Giolito is rumored to be headed to the Dodgers. Does that do anything for your opinion?
Yeah.
Probably needs a change of scenery.
They have to shore up. I think he's been in a kind of a toxic thing there. And he's like with Cease. Although I don't think, I don't love that. I bet him at 300-1, and I don't think I've gotten any value on him. The bullpen's blown 6 games in the month since I bet him. I mean, Jesus. Ridiculous. Well, they'd be like 3 out or 2 out if they hadn't. But Lance Lynn's pitched a lot better lately, and Cease is going to give you a pretty consistent performance. Remember, he had that string of 13 out of 14 where he only gave up 1 earned run. Yep. I think that's a great move for Giolito, though, to get out of there and get a fresh start on a team that's going to be a playoff team.
Yeah, Lance Lynn's got some Texas rumors floating around him. Where's Ohtani go? Does Ohtani go before the trade deadline?
He cannot. How can Artie Moreno sit down and tell him, I'm taking your AL MVP away?
Wow.
Trading him, they're not trading him in the American League. He's taking an MVP away from the guy. The whole purpose of the guy is to win awards. I mean, that's what this kid wants. He wants Cy Youngs and he wants MVPs, and you'll never convince me other than that. All the nonsense. Incredible to watch. I watch every time he pitches. I try to watch all his at-bats. But come on with all the nonsense.
Yeah. Any chance
he can't speak English in an interview? What's he yelling at the umpires all the time about?
Yeah, right.
He hops off the mound on every pitch within 8 inches of the strike zone that he doesn't get. You know what I mean? But he's hitting 300. That was always my criticism. I said he's 260 hitter shouldn't be an MVP. Most homers, most triples, of course the scorers are all in on it too. I mean, they hit the ball down the line against the White Sox, and Sheets kicked it 3 times. He wound up on third. Everybody's in on it.
Speaking of can't speak English, that's one of my takeaways from the All-Star game. My guy, Vladdy Guerrero, has an interpreter beside him all the time. All right. Since he's got to the major leagues, I get it. He's not comfortable. I'm not being critical of him. He sat down on the Fox set after the game and spoke fluent English.
Fluent. They speak
Yes.
fluently.
Yes.
It's amazing.
It is.
I think they just like to keep their friends employed.
I
with
mean,
these
it's a great
inferior
point.
jobs.
I never thought about that because after he went to Fox, he did an interview with Canadian TV, and he
Yeah.
had to have the interpreter. I never thought about that. Keeping their buddies, that's good stuff. We're out of time, Mike Baum. Glad to have you back. We'll talk to you tomorrow on the radio. You're going to be a little bit earlier, 11:30 with us locally if this gets posted here tonight. We'll talk to you next week on The Hook. And thanks for being with us. We're sponsored by Circa Sports in Iowa. You've been watching Iowa Everywhere. That's Mike Baum. I'm Ken Miller. We'll see you next time.